So my title is The Still Small Yes. It's about learning to trust the divine wisdom that is in us. It's always in us. It's always been in us. That we may forget, we may not realize, it may seem quiet, which is why the scripture refer to that voice as a still small voice. We're inundated by messages in this world, and it's getting even more so. You know, it began, I'm old enough to know what it was like before there was even cell phones in everyone's hand. Like, delight in telling my kids when I was your age and when my friends wanted to hang out, you called the one and only phone in their house and you got whoever was standing nearby. I don't even know, how do we even coordinate anything? I'm not sure. How'd you know what movies were playing? You look in the newspaper and they're like, the what? Yeah, the print of that paper, that printed paper. And the world is moving even faster now. And the internet has been, in many ways, you could call it the great equalizer. The problem with that is it equalizes anybody's story. It doesn't even have to be true. It just has to be a good story, right? Because good stories get repeated, and repeated stories get believed, right? There's no such thing as vetting a story anymore. If you can get enough people sharing it, guess what? All of a sudden, what you're saying is a contender for truth, even if it is nothing like truth. We're inundated by messages. There's noise surrounding us, external advice, internal pressure that we put on ourselves, expectations that we perceive from others that we take up and put on ourselves. The Christian mystic Thomas Merton said, in a world of noise, confusion, and conflict, it is necessary that there be places of silence, of inner discipline and peace. He's talking about turning within in prayer as we do. I invite you to know that this sort of confusion, this mass of messages, is not a failure on our part. It's just the world that we live in. It's there. It's happening. But that listening within to ourselves, having a practice of setting that aside, is in itself a spiritual act. I call this divine guidance. Divine guidance, the still small voice within us, is intimate, always. It's respectful, always. It's not dramatic, and it's never coercive. Right? Sometimes we wonder, well, how do I know if what I'm hearing is the Spirit? Is it love? Is it an invitation? Does it feel good and right? The Spirit within us is never forceful, never coercive, never includes hurting anybody. This is how we know. Is what I'm experiencing within in alignment with the truth of God? This is the question that we ask. In the Gospel of Luke, we read from Jesus, the kingdom of God is within you. Within you. That might be understood also as among you, which means among us. Here we are. It's everywhere. It's right here and right now. And the task is not that we have to go find it. It's here. It's always been here. The task is, can we see it? Do we have eyes to see? Do we have ears to hear? Divine guidance does not come from outside telling us who to be or what to do. It comes from within. It arises, it's probably a better word. It arises from within, reminding us who we already are. That's the nature of God. That's the nature of spiritual guidance that we find within. Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore said, "The mind of the Spirit will guide you in perfect ways, even in the minute details of your life, if you let it do so." We do have to allow it. We do have to allow it. Our busy mind and the busy world around us, they're constantly giving us messages. We can fairly easily block out our awareness of the presence of God, though we can never be separate from God. We can think ourselves apart. That makes our task to remember. And we do that as we turn within. We often learn to trust external authorities over our inner wisdom, as children. And in a way, you can see how that would unfold, right? Children don't know that it's dangerous to walk out into the street, right? It's good and right to teach a child that cars move quickly and they're dangerous. But where we can get lost is we think, oh, the big people know what's going on and I don't know anything, so I better listen to them. And that sticks with us, right? And that may be true about cars and streets, but it's not true about divine wisdom. It's not true about who we are as spirits having a human experience. So we can get lost in this idea that I don't know how things work and I better listen to others, and only they know. So we often learn to trust authority before wisdom that is within. And certainly before that divine presence that's in us as us. Right? Because it's relatively quiet. It doesn't jump up and scare you. Right? Like a car might rushing by. Most of us were taught how to obey long before we were taught how to listen within. So many of us understandably fear getting things wrong, right? We don't want to do anything wrong. If we do something wrong, then we get in trouble, right? When we're little, we might get chastised, yelled at, or whatever. But I invite you to consider that divine guidance that we encounter within is not a test of right and wrong. It is a relationship. It is an ongoing relationship, a dialogue, a conversation, a presence, a way of being in and with the Spirit, in silence, really. The Spirit doesn't trade in words, it trades in presence. Now, as we turn within, and I hear this a lot, and I've had this experience, well, how do I know? Again, how do I know if this is the divine within me, or if this is my thinking mind, right? Is this people ask me, how do I know if it's my ego or if it's God? And that is a good and fair question, because not every inner voice, if you will, is divine guidance. But divine guidance is always calm. It's always love. It comes from love. It is love. It's never compulsive. It doesn't compel us. It doesn't coerce us. There's no force around. It's not forcing us to do anything. It's always an invitation, not a command. The Spirit invites us. I joke about the choir. How do I know if joining the choir is mine to do? Well, listen within. Do you find an invitation? That's how you might know. And of course, sometimes when we find an invitation, we get nervous. That's okay. That's understandable. That means we're just stretching a little bit outside of what we're used to. We're getting out of our comfort zone. The Spirit does invite us to step out of our comfort zone, but never forces us to do anything. Never. The Sufi poet Rumi said, there is a voice that does not use words. Listen. Listen. That voice that does not use words is the Spirit within us. Listen to that silence. Howard Thurman said, there is something in every one of you that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine. To me, that's a good word to use. Genuine describes the Spirit perfectly. Listens for the sound of the genuine. So the way that we do this, of course, how do we learn this, is the same way we learn anything. Practice, right? You have to practice. Well, what if I get it wrong? So what? I get it wrong all the time. I mean, before I ever heard about this way of being, I got it wrong a lot. So what? It's not a problem. It's not a contest. You listen within. You follow what seems to be good and right and true that is inviting you forward, and you see what happens. And if you step outside the lines, so what? We do it all the time. You will know. You will know. And you think, oh, look at that. Yeah. And then you begin again. It's not a problem. Stillness, this inner stillness, I'll say, is more about creating space than about getting answers. Although we can, and it does happen, that we might feel like our time within has presented a solution to a problem, that's fine. I'm going to call that a side effect. Don't make that a focus. Because if we begin to think that, oh, I turn within to get solutions to my problems, we just shove the Spirit out of the way. It's like we just decided that God is this amazing Swiss Army knife we keep in our pocket. And we have a problem, we get it out, and it solves the problem, we put it back. Don't do that. If a solution, an insight comes to you and you realize, oh my gosh, that's the perfect way forward, just say thank you and move forward. But don't let that take over the focus of your practice. Your practice is about joining the Spirit in stillness, and whatever comes out of that's fine. But the practice is returning to the stillness, to the presence of God, always. Giving thanks for all the good that comes from that. Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founder Myrtle, taught to be still and know that the divine presence is working in you, always, whether you're thinking about it or not, whether you realize it or not. The divine presence is working in you toward your highest good. But are we listening? The universe is calling, it's been said. Are you listening? Are you answering? So prayer for us is less about asking for instructions, although we may turn within, we may have a quandary, something in our life that is bringing up fear in us. And we turn within. I invite you always to take your life experience within. And let the Spirit open doors and illuminate your path and show the way forward that you know where to take action and see what happens next. But we always return. So prayer for us is less about asking for instructions and more about being open to the presence, to listening for truth, you might say, which can show up as do this. And that's fine. But again, don't make that the focus of your practice. The practice is to join the silence within and let the Spirit be our guide. The practice is not get solutions to my problems, though that may happen. This is one reason that it's tricky. Can you see how easily you do this? Eyes open, so to speak. Path is illuminated. You think, this is great. Now I know how to get all the answers to my problems. And then without realizing, you make that your focus. And then all of a sudden, where's God gone? Well, I just set God aside in favor of answers to my problems. Right? I invite you always to return simply to the presence of the Spirit. Let all the rest of that be what it is. But that's not our focus. Again, Rumi said, why are you so busy seeking? The door is within you. We look outside of us for satisfaction in our life, but the path is within us. Following divine guidance within is not for the faint of heart. It takes courage. Because the Spirit will often illuminate a path forward that makes us nervous. Because if we are to grow in the Spirit, that means we're going to shift the way that we think. It means we're going to do things different than we've done them before, which means we're in new territory, which means we're uncomfortable. Right? If you're not uncomfortable, I invite you to be open to being uncomfortable, because that's how this works. When ministry education went online, I taught Bible history and historical Jesus studies for Unity for 7 years, up to a few years ago. And when I graduated from the program, it was an in-person program. Heather and I moved our 3 kids across the country, halfway across the country, which I can't believe I did. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, it was absolutely the right thing to do, and I was following divine guidance, and I look back at it and say, I can't believe I did that. And if someone else looked at me and said, you're kind of nuts, I can't argue with that. Yeah. But then, not just Unity, but the whole world of ministry education went online. I mean, there are in-person seminaries still. And as I taught online, which has its upside, right, and has its downside, just like we were online for our church service for 2 weeks, which is better than doing nothing, because nobody had any business being on the roads both of the last 2 Sundays. So it was good and right to stay home and stay warm. So we did what we could with what we had available, and it was surprisingly wonderful. But it's no substitute for this. I don't think it is. But I had a student say, this is great, because I can get my ministry education from the comfort of my own home. And I had to bite my tongue. Because what I wanted to say was, if you want to get into ministry, comfort has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. Nothing. So prepare to be uncomfortable and know, not only is it okay, you're right there with the rest of us. I mean, I was uncomfortable before, right? It may as well be uncomfortable in a way that supports my growth in the Spirit. So following guidance requires courage. And it often leads us away from certainty toward what I would say authenticity, which if it's new, is uncomfortable. Parker Palmer said, before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Turn it around. Let the Spirit be your guide. It's important, I think, that we acknowledge very honestly that inner guidance may disappoint expectations, especially if we go into it thinking, you know, I want the perfect answer to this problem. I want the next week's winning lottery numbers or whatever. And you're disappointed if we start to treat the Spirit in a transactional manner. That's not how this works at all. And though you may have experiences, it feels like, well, sometimes it works that way. It doesn't. And I invite you to stop looking at it as transactional and look at it as experiential. So although we may be disappointed if we're going at it with the wrong way of seeing in mind, our inner guidance never betrays our spirit. It cannot. There is no such thing. You can never go wrong following the Spirit within. There's no such thing as a mistake. It's just another learning opportunity. You can't get it wrong. You can't get it wrong. It's like, but what if I do something and it becomes some painful situation? Hey, that might be exactly what you need in order to grow. Right? That might be exactly it. Trust God. Thich Nhat Hanh said, feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing, though, is my anchor. And in that Buddhist tradition, he means come back to that presence within. Let the weather be the weather. Feelings come and go. Be anchored in the breath, anchored in the Spirit. So I'm going to close with this worldview. I invite you to consider that you're not being tested in this world, you're being led. Right? This is not a pass-fail thing. This is not a you better do it right or else. This is a follow the Spirit within and allow all to be well. No matter what happens, allow it to be well. We have a way of saying, I call it good and therefore it is good. When I look for the good, I find good. Trust your inner wisdom is my message. Trust God in you. Desjardins said, trust in the slow work of God. Because in our world of instant gratification, that's not how this works. The slow work of God. You're not late. You're not failing. You're being led gently, step by step. Our work, if you call it that, is to show up and listen and to take the next step. So here's our affirmation. I'll read it and then we can share it together. I listen for the quiet wisdom within. I trust God. I take the next step. Let's say that together. I listen for the quiet wisdom within. I trust God. I take the next step.